This is an interesting question because I've had to do it several times throughout my career, and each time's a little bit different depending on what the senior executive and what their model is and how they actually go through budgeting. Some are very rigid, depending on the size of the organization, and there's a small window of which you can put your budget requests together at the prior to the next fiscal year, and you go through that entire process. And then others, it's more initiative based. A couple of words of kind of direction of advice that I've had is really look at the entire picture of what you're pitching for, not just the use case or the specific tactics you're looking to achieve, right? Really take that really basic 4P approach, right? And when you look at it from being your own CMO and you're looking at it from a business, you can't just say, I need to do more events or I need more people to execute these activities. It's what are the full contained costs to execute what I'm asking? So that is people, it could be promotion and activation budget, it could be additional channel or partnerships, and also soft costs, right? Are the people that are now helping me to support this increased budget, are they having to be reprioritized as well? So you need to really look across the entire ecosystem when you're building a business case for budget on what the impacts and then the outcomes will be. Establish some benchmarks. Come in with a perspective on what the outcomes will be and what the use of the dollars will result in, even if you don't think it's 100%. Come with a perspective so you can measure it and how you will measure it back to that executive team and what the added uplift will be on that budget. I will say, from an influence perspective on the previous question, this is very important as well for securing budget. You can have the best business case in the world, but you need people around you to understand why you're asking for it. So this is where, if I'm at a partner marketing organization, I'm leaning in actually to my partners themselves. Though now that I'm in the channel, I understand I can also be your biggest hurdle. Probably the biggest pain in your butt to get things done, but I can also be your biggest advocate. And if we understand the challenges you're facing and the ability of what you're looking for to either make my job easier, for me to increase my market share, or to expand my capabilities, I'm also going to go to bat for you to get that budget. And so lean into your partner community to help them advocate on your behalf in addition to your business stakeholders. And I think if you do that across the 4 Ps, leverage your influence, find your champions, you'll have a better success at securing that budget.
If you're starting a partner marketing organization for the ground up, key to building on your team and your resources and budget is being able to show ROI. And so for me, making sure that I understand how I'm going to measure attribution is key. We could do a whole session on attribution because it's challenging and sometimes you have to get super creative, but it needs to be believable. It needs to be real. And without that, you can't have your executives understand the value that your partners are bringing to the table. So this is something, in my current role that we started talking about from day one, and it's very critical conversation to have. I did start with more creative ways of measuring attribution, qualitative outcomes where you can start to make the connection that actually influence the actual quantitative outcomes. And then now we're in the middle of making some systems updates to really be able to more cleanly measure attribution. So really important there. I echo the need to have those executive relationships and be able to advocate for your partner. I report into someone who reports into our CEO. So when I'm presenting a update on our quarterly update on our partner community, I present to my manager, but I'm also thinking about the CEO as my audience. And to the degree that you can continually advocate for your partners, to your peers, to your leadership, you can make sure that you're persistent and able to get that story across. And that is my third point, is persistence is key. Sometimes you do have to chip away. So you show the measurable outcomes, you tell the story, and you continue to chip away and tell that story and show the outcomes. And you will start to see movement as you start to consistently show the value that partners bring to the table.
I 100% agree with everything that Matt said. And and Anne-Marie, you know, just hearing them just triggered different memories and different times of my career as well. And I think, you know, what really resonated was know your audience, right? Because decision makers and executives, you know, they each have their own points of interest. There may be a stakeholder who's very data driven. There may be a stakeholder or a decision maker that's more of the big picture. So really understanding, you know, what's important for the decision makers. So I think it's about speaking their language. But I think at the end of the day, as both Anne-Marie and Matt said, it's, you know, the impact to the business. You have to tie everything back to what is the impact of the business and ultimately, you know, the revenue, right? So I think definitely MarTech and getting, if you don't already have some type of a tie into a ROI or to the revenue, start now, right? Start figuring out how to do it. And it might be a multi-phase process where you can show the outcomes, but at least start with some use cases and anecdotes if you don't have anything to show for right now, right? Start building that piece, and so that you can really show that connection back to the impact of the business. I also agree that leverage your stakeholders, right? I think Matt said it earlier, was about the champions in sales. So that's part of the strength in your justification as well, because your stakeholder and again, sales leads to the revenue. So that can really impact your use case for why you need certain resources or certain headcount. And I think Anne-Marie said, you know, it may not come all at once, right? So maybe build in some of the timeline or the options of phase 1 or phase 2, but really build into that, you know, some options for the decision makers, because oftentimes they do want to help, but either they're strapped by the environment or certain business objectives. But if you can offer some key wins for both your team and the organization, you know, I think it will be supported. And then you have the longer ask at the end of the day. So, you know, strive for that and keep targeting it. But I would say definitely, if you don't already have some type of ROI to show, whether it's anecdotal or tangible, really start doing that now, right, to build that case.